morning, everybody. I'm Professor Dr. Victor Ho from the Department of Social and Political Medicine, Faculty of Medicine, UC Malaya. The next speaker is my dear friend, my dear colleague, my uh, colleague long time ago, more than 20 years. So I've known Prof. Moy for more than 20 years. And Prof. Moy is very, very innovative in her way she do research and in the way she continue to excite us all the time. So I would like I wouldn't waste so much time because the time is already short. I would just let Prof. Moy continue with a lecture. Prof. Moy, please continue.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Victor, for the kind words. I would like to thank the organizer to giving me a chance to share my experience in research. So my talk will be totally different from Prof. Sagunan's. What I'm sharing here would be the research experience conducting a cohort study. Okay, so let me share my screen. So the title of my talk is Role of Cohort Design for Evidence Generation, Insights from the Cluster Cohort Study. I come from the Department of Social Preventive Medicine, where Prof. Victor is the HOD. I'm not giving a lecture on cohort study, but I will just go through briefly what is a cohort study, strength and limitation of a cohort study, and our experience and lesson learned from the cluster cohort study. Okay, so what is a cohort study? Cohort study is an observational study where we gather a group of individuals who are free of disease at the beginning of the study, and then we measure whatever risk factors that we are interested. So most probably we will measure the lifestyle risk factors, and we will take some blood samples, and we will keep it or we will analyze it at the beginning, and then we follow up these individuals who are without disease over time, and then we try to assess when they develop disease. So whatever disease outcome that we are interested in, like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancers, etc. So then we will compare the disease occurrence. We can use incidence. We can compare the incidence of disease between those with exposure and without exposure. So this is, in brief, how a cohort study is conducted. So these are some of the landmark cohort studies I'm sure you have heard. So Framingham Heart Study, the British Doctors Cohort Study, Whitehall Study. Whitehall Study is a study among civil servants in the UK. And then Nurses Health Study, and the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition Study. So this is an EPIC study. Okay, so these are all the very famous and established cohort studies which have given us a lot of evidence on risk factors with the associated health outcomes. So just to show, for example, the Framingham study, it started in 1948, and it gave us evidence on cigarette smoking and risk of heart disease, cholesterol, blood pressure, increased risk of heart disease. And then we also have the very established and well-used Framingham risk score. Right. However, there are some limitations with cohort studies because we would require large sample size. So it's not, our sample size cannot be in terms of hundreds, but half can be 100,000 or 20,000 and all. So, and then it is not effective for rare disease because if the disease is rare, you have to have more sample size, a larger sample size. And it takes a long time to follow up because we are waiting for the disease to happen. For example, cancers, it will take 10, 20 years to happen. And when you start the study, you may not be able to wait for the disease to happen. And because of the long follow-up, there is a high attrition rate where the participants may have moved, or they may have, if you do an occupational cohort, the participant may have retired, or over time they have lost interest, they decline to participate. And of course, with all this, the time and the follow-up and so on, this is very expensive. But having said that, the strength of cohort study, the strength of cohort study have actually not deterred us from doing it, because it will minimize information bias. We would measure the risk factors before the individuals or the participant develop disease. So bias like recall bias, social desirability bias won't happen, because they haven't developed any abnormality. So when you ask them about their risk factors, they will just tell you, they may tell you frankly, okay? And what we can do is more than one disease can be studied over time. So we can measure multiple disease outcome. So we can do diabetes together. We can establish, try to ascertain whether the participants have diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, cancers, and so on. And we can calculate the incidence rate. The most important one is we can establish causal relationship, because risk factors is established before the disease occur. So we are quite confident that there is a causal relationship between the risk factor and the outcome. And the cohort study has the highest evidence of highest hierarchy of evidence among all the observational studies. Okay, so next I would like to share our study, that is cluster cohort study. Is an acronym for clustering of lifestyle risk factors and understanding its association with stress on health and well-being among school teachers in Malaysia. Why did we choose school teachers? It's because we were thinking that doctors and nurses are very busy, although they are a very confined group, but it's more difficult to get them to respond to us. So we selected teachers. They are confined, and teachers in Malaysia, they are within the education system, and we can trace them as and when we would like to do that. So that's why we selected teachers as our participants. So these are the investigators. I'm the principal investigator, and we have Prof. Victor, my good friend, my ex-classmate, Prof. Noran Hairi, Prof. Sanjay Rampal, and Prof. Dato' Awang, who has retired. So we started the cohort study in 2013. Actually, it's almost 12 years ago. And it was sponsored by the MOHE, the MOHE HIR grant. We had a total of 2.3 million. We first obtained 1.5 million, and then we asked for a top-up of 800,000. And we randomly selected 6 states within the Peninsular Malaysia. We didn't go to East Malaysia because of cost. So the states that we selected were Pulau Pinang, Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, Malacca, Johor, and Terengganu. So we went to all the districts of each state, and then we randomly selected 70% of the schools in each state. And we managed to have 534 public, primary, and secondary schools that participated. So all teachers from the schools that agreed to participate were invited for the studies. And we recruited about 15,000 teachers. So the objectives of our study was to explore the clustering of lifestyle risk factors such as smoking, overweight, obesity, alcohol, physical inactivity, and unhealthy diet with stress on health outcomes. We follow up on the study population for health outcomes such as obesity, hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancers. After excluded some of the duplicates and incomplete data, so we had 14,227 teachers, which about 20% are males and 80% are female, which represent the proportion of sex proportion among teachers. And race is majority Malays, followed by Chinese, Indians, and others. So the data collection for baseline took more than 2 years. We did face-to-face study, and we used, our questionnaire was a 20-page questionnaire. It was hard copies, but we use a teleform which is scannable. So once the participants fill up the form, we would scan it and then it will be transferred into the database. And we did physical measurements on weight, height, blood pressure, and we took blood sample. And we because of the questionnaire was very long, so in return, we gave them a free screening, health screening, which we gave them the results of fasting blood glucose, lipid, and renal profiles. And if they were found to have abnormal blood results, we would recommend, we will give them referral letter to the to the clinics, health clinics, and so on. And for the blood sample that we collected, we also set up a biobank which we stored serum, plasma, and buffy coat. So these are the photos of some of the activities. You can see the teachers here and our team of RAs. We have about 15 RAs. And this, you also see that how our RAs process the blood sample to be stored. And this is the samples that we stored in the faculty biobank, and this is how our RA, I even brought my sons to help sort out the samples. And we have about 8 postgraduate candidates who joined us in the baseline studies, and all of them have completed their studies. And for the follow-up, because we don't have funding for the follow-up, so we only did the follow-up in 2020. And 2020, when we started planning, it was the time that the COVID pandemic started. So we had to forego the physical visits, but we used online questionnaire using RedCap. And as we have collected their telephone numbers, we try to call them or SMS them. And in order to have better participation rates towards the, I think in 2023, after the COVID pandemic, we had some engagement activities with them. We went to the school and gave some health talks and simple screening. We also engaged them with social media, Facebook, webpage, and so on. And health outcomes, health outcomes that have registry, we try to link with the national registries. So these are the postgraduate students that involved in the follow-up. And these are the activities that we did after towards the end of the pandemic. And these are the website that we informed that our follow-up study was starting and so on. So we had 7 doctoral candidates involved in the follow-up, which 2 have already completed, another 2 awaiting Viva. So the follow-up for obesity and hypertension, because we don't have registry for that, we did telephone calls and SMS, and we only did it in one state because it's not possible to call 10,000 teachers. So the candidates work very hard to try to contact the teachers through telephone calls and SMS. For type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and breast cancer, because they are registries, so we use the registries. We, of course, we obtain ethical clearance and approval from the relevant parties. We link with the registries, and we did some checking by calling, but we didn't call all 14,000 teachers. Right, so these are some of the findings that we have. So on obesity, from 3,200 plus female teachers from the state of Selangor, the prevalence of overweight obesity at baseline was 51%, and at follow-up was 62%. And the incidence of overweight obesity was 34.4% at follow-up. And we use a cluster analysis. So we group the risk factors in clusters. So you can see that cluster 6 is without the risk factors, And cluster 5 is low consumption in fruits. Cluster 4 is fruits and physical activity which are abnormal, and then cluster 3, low consumption of fruits and with anxiety. And then cluster 2, fruits, depression and anxiety which are abnormal. And then cluster 1, fruit, depression, anxiety and stress. So you can see that cluster 6 without risk is only less than 10%, is only 9.1%. So from here, this cluster groups, we did the analysis and we found that from cluster 3 onwards, there is a positive association between this cluster with incidence of overweight obesity. And then we can see there's an increasing trend when the clustering of risk factors increases. The next outcome on cardiovascular disease, we follow up for a median duration of 7.7 years. That is 209 incident cases with an incidence of 1.49%. For lifestyle risk factors, we only had found it significant at the univariate level, but not in the multivariate level. So at the multivariate level, the significant predictors for incident CVD was being married, is a protective effect. Maybe being married, the spouse will encourage each other to practice healthier lifestyle. Male gender, age more than 50 years old, Malay, Indians, those with diabetes, hypertension, with high LDL cholesterol and high triglyceride, all had higher risk for incident CVD. So this concur with the evidence the existing evidence. For type 2 diabetes, the prevalence of type 2 diabetes was 4.1% for diagnosed diabetes and 5.4% for undiagnosed. The incidence of type 2 diabetes at follow-up of median duration of 8 years is 5.1%. And a healthy lifestyle index was developed and validated, which comprised of physical inactivity, waist circumference, sleep duration, depression, anxiety, and stress. And we found that the association of HLI with type 2 diabetes incidence had a hazard ratio of 0.67%, meaning that those who practice a healthier lifestyle would have a protective effect for type 2 diabetes of about 33%. So these are the publications from our study. And the strength or achievement of cluster is that we are one of the few cohort studies in Malaysia, and we have quite a number of publications, and we have had postgraduate students, and we have a biobank set up. So I would like to invite our fellow colleagues, if you are interested to use our biosamples, you are welcome. Now we have the health outcome like breast cancer, CVD, and so on. If you are interested, you are welcome to use our biosamples. Right. So from this study, we have had challenges. So as you know that we have spent 2.3 million is only to do the baseline, and we don't have money to do the follow-up. And we have difficulty applying for our funds actually. And it's long follow-up. And there are low event rates for some health outcomes. So I think we are collecting data. We are trying to link our data with breast cancer. So I think until 2021, we only have around 50 cases. So now we need to link with 2022 or 2023 so that we hope to have more cases. And there's high attrition rate because once they retire, they may lose interest in the study and they decline to participate. And then they also change their phone numbers, so there's no way for us to contact them. And because of COVID pandemic, we have difficulty doing engagement or physical, going to the schools and so on. And getting ethics approval for follow-up is a problem. Our postgraduate candidates had difficulty getting ethics because the ethics committee may not understand what is a cohort study, and they asked very funny questions. And data linkages, the registries, whether the registry has a 100% coverage or very high percentage of coverage, would greatly affect our findings. So based on the challenges mentioned and to adapt to the current research landscape, I would like to suggest that the future cohort studies may incorporate the following when there's funding. If there's funding, consider e-recruitment, doing e-recruitment, or implement technology like wearable devices, mobile apps, electronic health records, and do data integration from multiple sources and big data analytics. And we should have multidisciplinary approaches from public health, genomics, and data science. And of course, to enhance focus on data privacy and consent processes. So I would like to acknowledge the MOHI grant, the teachers who participated in cluster, my co-investigators, all my postgraduate candidates, my research assistants, and the support from the Faculty of Medicine. Thank you. Thank you.
I think we have a lot of time for question and answer. There's 2 questions in the chat box. All right. New idea crops up every day. If that idea was not thought of at the time, but the data still be mined to explore those factors to the new condition, if they have been touched upon in data collection, just can you excuse of salami production of your data?
Okay. All right. Actually, this question also was asked, brought up by the ethics committee, but we are looking at different outcomes, so it is not considered salami production. So, and if we have new ideas like new biomarkers, it is not considered salami, because at the time we started the cohort study, which is 10 years ago, so we may not have developed new biomarkers to which are associated with the disease. So if we take the biosample and analyze for that particular biomarker that is newly developed, and we try to see whether there's association with the health outcome, I think it is new research questions and it is not considered as a salami production.
So you can actually look at new outcome, new
Yeah,
issues based
new
on
biomarkers, new exposure, so that is not considered that. Right.
Maybe you can explain what is salami production.
Salami production means that you produce multiple papers from your data set.
All right, so you basically
Yes, I'm producing multiple papers from my data set, but I'm looking at different health outcomes. And then
okay,
I'm looking at new biomarkers if there is. Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right. So the next question comes from Mary J. And how did you decide on different cluster for your study? So
Okay,
where does the cluster come from?
Different cluster. You mean the cluster analysis? So we
No, the
use
cluster, the group of clustering, because you talk about clustering, right? Your study is a clustering study. Clustering of
No, it's a
health.
factors. It's a statistical method where we analyze and then it's data
Driven, is it?
Data driven, sorry. Yeah, it's data driven. So we analyze, and then it would generate the clusters based on the data, existing data.
Okay. All right. One thing, Prof. Moy, I think there's more question maybe, but we still have a little bit time. Just let us discuss about your study. All right. Your study duration is 10 years, and I think beside the thing you presented, there's much more other issues that you have faced. Oh, sorry, never mind, that one later. That one, much more issues that you have faced. So can you explain to me how did you continue to work on your data when there's no grant and follow it up for 10 years? What is
Okay.
what is the thing that you have actually done?
Actually, we have been quiet. We have been quiet for the before So I think we stopped our baseline data collection in 2016. We stopped totally. And then we didn't do anything. I mean, we tried to apply for grant, but because the outcome won't happen so fast. So from until 2020, we didn't do anything because there's no fund, and then the outcome also may not have developed. So in 2020, we started with obesity. So that was the first outcome that we look at, because we have a lot of we know our population is the fattest in Southeast Asia. So we work on obesity. So what happened is that the postgraduate students who is involved, Dr. Zakia, has used telephone calls and SMS. And then
No, the question was,
mm,
how did you keep yourself interested over the long
oh,
period?
how did I get I'm always thinking
Because
about
because
it.
because because it's a long process. I think a lot of researcher would not have this 10 years thing in mind.
Uh, I it's always in my heart, but in between I also did other research, other topics. So
Yeah.
yeah, because we are waiting for events to happen. We
Right. So
cannot, yeah. Mm. So that's why you need a long time to do a cohort study. Maybe you can take over after I retire.
no, I'm not talking about this right later. Okay.
No, we,
All
we
right.
still can continue. So
All right.
why we did these few outcomes is because we think these few outcomes will have a higher event rates. So there are other
Okay.
outcomes which yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, no, very last question. We are running out of time. What is salami production, and is salami production really bad? So the salami came in. I tell you, early morning we have rumors. Now we have salamis. So but from what is salami production bad?
I think we cannot write. I mean, if your exposure and the outcome is the same, and then it is not ethical to produce multiple papers using the same risk factors or exposure at the same outcome. Yeah, it's not ethical.
Yeah, the simple thing is that you can do it one or two times, but when you continue to do it, then the reviewer or the editor would basically know that you have been doing this, and then you would be blacklisted. And they are nowadays depends on. I mean, I'm talking about those high impact journals, not the one that is not normal journal, high impact journal. Basically, take note of that. So it all depends on whether you publish the paper in high impact journal, then you have more staff, right? Or you want to publish multiple paper in low. So it is not good or not bad. It is up to the production, yeah, research team. That's what I think, right? I think that is a very general question. Anyhow, I think we are running out of time. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning, and thanks to Prof. Moy, and also to the earlier Prof. Sagulantan. And then I think we have a very interesting talk. Maybe we can take this space, and we will see you again next Wednesday, and for the next breakfast at UMHealth. Good. Thank you. Bye.
Okay,
Have a
thank
nice
you.
day.